what can partnership teams do better?
I really like how you describe this process because that's exactly how this happens.
Again, that's sales. It's not a relationship. Since we implemented that change, we've noticed drastic increases in improvement across a lot of accounts.
And it's not just some financially incentivized relationship.
Truly person to person.
Welcome to Make Them Famous, the podcast about partner enablement.
The only podcast to uncover both how partner teams enable their partners
and how other department leaders enable their partner teams to achieve success.
All right, welcome back to Make Them Famous. Today is another version of this podcast where we get to hear from two longtime partners to uncover what they are doing to ensure ROI from their partnership. With me is one of my favorite partner managers, Nic Romaya, head of partnerships at Recart, and his partner, Daniel Budai, CEO of Budai Media, a retention marketing agency in Europe. Today, we are going deep into the weeds on these topics: determining partnerships market fit, finding your first partner, developing this first partner into a case study to build your program around, how the CEO of Recart developed the first few partnerships himself, Recart's unique cash upfront incentive model and why it works, Nic's experience with commissions, incentives to agencies for their partnerships teams versus their CEO, why Daniel sees most partnerships calls as a waste of his time. That's an important one. And what can partner managers do to ensure the agency owner wants to get on that next call? This is another actionable boots on the ground strategy pod for you all. But before we start this episode, please take 3 minutes and hear from 3 sponsors, which are actually great partner enablement products. Thank you again. Enjoy. Well, we could not make this podcast famous without help from our sponsors. For sponsorship, we looked to 3 platforms that help you find, activate, enable, and manage your partner program. These 3 tools may be the only tools that you'll need to effectively run partnership. The tools in question are Reveal for account mapping and running co-selling operations, Partner Stack for scaling a multi-tiered commission-centric program, and Partner Hub for working closely day-to-day with MSPs, managed service providers. Partner Stack probably needs no introduction, They work with top tech companies like Monday.com, Unbounce, Intercom, and Webflow. And it's a company that we recommend when you are ready to scale your commission-centric, usually a multi-tiered partner program. Check out Partner Stack to scale partnerships. Reveal, again, when you're ready to really get into the revenue operation of partnerships, that means that you want to map accounts, see what the overlap is, see who I'm targeting that you're also targeting, see who I'm targeting that you're not targeting, and come up with a strategy to get those accounts into my pipeline, into your pipeline, and to build that pie, that bigger and bigger pie together. Oftentimes, you'll invite a partner to an account mapping solution that has a paywall too early, which is prohibitive for a lot of the target audiences that our partner programs are after, the digital agencies. If you invite them to Reveal, you can trust that they won't hit a paywall. There's 360 account mapping UI in Reveal for free, and it is at reveal.co. Finally, Partner Hub, again, it's a partner operations platform. Partnerships has a lot going on. Who's doing what at what stage in the partnership are the questions that many of my partner managers ask themselves. Partner Hub is here to solve for what are we doing with partnerships, who's doing what, where are our partners, and if we need to find more, are we able to go and shop for more partners? Partner Hub answers all of those questions with yes, and it is free. It's free for top tech companies like Apollo, AudioEye, Smith, Growbots, Recart, Customer.io, and it's free for digital agencies like Hawk Media, Trellis, Aptitude 8, Creative Trends, a lot of these tech companies and agencies use Partner Hub to find and align with each other: MSP, managed service provider, digital agency, as well as SaaS tech companies. So check it out, partnerhub.app. And again, thank you for listening. I'll let you get back to the show. All right, guys, welcome to the podcast. Nic, let's start with a quick introduction in case anyone listening doesn't know who you are, what you do.
Hey, everybody. My name is Nic. I am the head of partnerships over at Recart.com. Recart is a mobile messaging platform, so we do messenger marketing and SMS. And I've been there for about 2.5 years running everything from agency partnerships, tech partnerships, events, etc.
Awesome, man. Yeah, and we have a long history. I think long being in partnerships, anything over a year is long.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been a pleasure working with you for the time that we've been working together. It's been great.
Likewise.
I've learned a lot. So thanks for jumping on. The conversation started, Daniel. I want to get an introduction to you and your agency here. But the conversation was first with Daniel. I didn't even know when we were talking, Daniel, that you had such a long history relationship with Recart. And I decided to schedule this podcast with you to kind of understand what's going on with your agency and partnerships, what's going on with you guys in Recart, why it's been such a, I think, positive relationship, and get some content for the listeners to allow them and teach them to create a partnership like your and Recart's. But Daniel, who are you? What do you do? What does your agency specialize in?
Sure. So thanks for inviting me, Alex. And I'm the CEO of Budai Media. We are a retention marketing focused e-commerce agency, and we help e-commerce companies all over the world, mostly in North America and Europe. And we help them with marketing channels such as email marketing, messenger, SMS marketing, loyalty programs, recently even CDPs. So that's what we do. And we've been a Recart partner since the earliest time when it was possible, I think 2, 3, maybe 4 years ago. But yeah, I know their team, many team members there. And we are both based in Budapest, Hungary. And we both have team members in the US as well and all over in Europe. So it's been a great relationship.
I like the story, the anecdote you told before we started recording, but it's very interesting. And I think for the CEOs listening to understand like how this relationship got started, what is almost like we call it partnerships market fit, where you have a product, all of a sudden the agencies are starting to interact with your product in the way that you did, Daniel, where you're building services for your clients on top of Recart. You're not just sending a link to Recart to your clients and saying, hey, this is the tool we recommend, but you're servicing Recart. And then you experience issues with the product and you start knocking on doors. And then all of a sudden the CEO invites you closer to the product, which I think is part of Recart's success. I don't know how big of a part, but part of Recart's success is what happened with you. So Daniel, why don't you tell us what happened with you and the CEO of Recart 4 years ago?
Yeah, I think it was back in 2018 when I just launched my company back then, I think. And then I posted a lot on Facebook because back then it was way more organic than nowadays. One day I posted about Recart, that this is an amazing messenger marketing tool. Back then, I think they had only messenger marketing. Now it's much more, it's SMS as well. So that's the flagship actually now. But back then it was focused around messenger and some email marketing. And I just started, talking about Recart, that this tool is good, but there are even, other tools on the market. And I have my reasons why I prefer those as well. And the CEO of Recart, Shoma, he read this post and then he reached out to me on Messenger. He wants to talk to me, and he invited me into his office. And then he asked me a lot of questions about the product. So, back then I expected that maybe he would be a bit hostile, or, he's a bit hurt or something. But actually it was not that. So it was not the case. It was a startup back then. It's still a startup, but back then, the whole team was really young at Recart. And he was just genuinely curious about the product. So he asked a lot of questions, and I remember we talked for more than 2 hours, maybe even 3 hours. and just one-on-one, two CEOs. Since then we have the relationship. Sometimes we even go to the gym together.
Yeah, and Nic, this was before your time, correct? Let's just get the timetable.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, so the notes I'm taking on this podcast, and I think what we can get out of this, at least in the first part of the episode, is for CEOs to build an initial relationship with a growing agency that obviously has bought into the product, has experienced good and bad product, and has some expertise in the market that you're trying to break into. So this was when Recart was still trying to find product market fit, I think, more or less. They aren't what they are today. And then an agency starts being super active with the product, experiencing good and bad product, and then starts commenting on social and commenting on maybe review sites. And then instead of obviously trying to block that agency and get them off the product and say, no, you just don't understand what we're trying to do, CEO invites the agency, Daniel in this case, to a call, finding out what Daniel's doing with the product, really getting to know Daniel. And that is the seed, the genesis of the partner program, which now Nic runs. The takeaways are finding that initial flagship partner is super key to SaaS partner programs. Daniel, you are a perfect example of this. It's someone that is savvy, someone that wants to build services on top of the product and wants the product to be where Recart is today, but it wasn't there. This was 4 years ago. And wants to help because you see the opportunity, Daniel, in, hey, if Recart can just fix a couple of these minor things, I can sell a bunch of services on top of the product and we can grow together. So back to Daniel real quick, Nic, and then we'll go to you. But I want to find out really how Soma enabled you in those early days. Was it just, hey, I'm going to offer you essentially a chance to work closer to the product and help us? Was there any sort of incentives for you, or was it just you felt the product was the right product and you felt generous enough to help them? What was the enablement in those early days?
Yeah, I really like that you mentioned that we built on this product. We built a service around this product because actually since the beginnings, we have this mindset that we don't want to work with 200 SaaS companies. We want to see the whole market for, let's say, SMS marketing. Because now that, our go-to SMS tool is Recart. So we just check every tool on the market and then we pick one or maybe two and we use those. And we try to have a very close relationship with those companies. And it's not just some financially incentivized relationship, but we try to go the extra mile. So knowing the CEO, knowing their team, knowing their product development, what issues they have, what challenges they have. We give them feedback regularly, and that's what we do. And you asked about the incentives. So actually with Recart, we exactly got these things. So of course there is some, financial incentive, but that's not the main thing. We want to have happy clients, satisfied clients. And with Recart, we have a shared Slack channel. Sometimes we have calls, actually not sometimes, quite often. And we invite clients as well. We are just rolling out a few case studies together with our clients. So all of these things, and I think these are very strategic things. And unfortunately, many SaaS companies, they don't enable us to do it, or I don't know, they just don't have this kind of mindset that I really miss. So I think this strategic partnership is very important, and connecting not just the business owners, but the employees in both teams.
Okay, and this is where I'm going with this. That's all here. So it's a situation where in the early days, when it's one partner, all you really have is we can work closer with you. We can support you more. We can bring you closer to the product and offer you, Daniel, in this case, and your agency, the opportunity to be experts and also sort of trusted advisors almost. And that gives you a little bit of extra pull with your clients, where you can say, I really know this product and I really know the team well and trust me, almost like a trust me sort of thing. And that's enough. But Nic, now you're dealing with okay, well, I have to enable hundreds of partners, and I can't do that with all of my partners. So you have to build what is now a mature partner program, which has different sort of more scalable, automated incentives that are a little bit different than what Soma and Daniel had when they were just starting out. So now let's talk a little bit about what the partner program is today. Nic, what does it look like today? What are you using to manage this program in a sense of like, how is the operation of partnerships look today? And what are some of the incentives that you're using to draw more agencies in?
First of all, I want to say that Daniel does get, I want to say, a little bit special treatment from us at Recart because, of course, he was, and I don't know if we mentioned this. I think we just talked about how Soma met Daniel, but just to be clear, Daniel was actually our first person in the whole program, and one of 3 agencies that was kind of warmed up to me when I joined the company. So I kind of had like a little bit of a head start. And one of the first calls that I ever had actually was with Daniel and his team, which was pretty awesome. So just kind of wanted to emphasize how awesome the relationship is between Budai and Recart, and how thankful we are to have someone so close to home. You know, there's not that many agencies and tech companies in e-commerce, Shopify specific, in Budapest. So it's really so cool to have those connections already pre-populated. Once we started working together, of course, initially it was a little, it was definitely not what it was today. As you said, it's become a lot more mature. To maintain this level of partners, you have to talk, in automations, you have to talk to the masses. So we use a partner portal to use that. And we update assets and send out newsletters as well for any information, new integrations, product roadmap, for example, what the rest of Q3 looks like, what the rest of Q4 looks like. So you can mention that to your customers and you have a good expectation, because at the end of the day, Recart is an extension of your company, right? You're going to be using this product for your customers. You got to keep up to date with everything. But of course, there's definitely some times where updates and communication can feel barren and stale. So that's when, I'll just try to chime in and be like, hey, how's it going? Just being human. And I think that's very important. And that's one of my biggest philosophies in partnerships. A lot of people don't try to take the time to really connect on a level maybe that isn't business related, right? It's just truly person to person. And then obviously you can talk about business later, but I think relationship management really starts with understanding the person and who they are at a core. Anyways, besides the automations, running a partner portal, we do an interesting program here at Recart that I'm pretty sure is unique or somewhat unique, and will actually accelerate commission. So if someone signed like a 6-month deal or a 12-month deal, this is, again, just the financial incentive side. It is more important for some agencies, less important for others, but everyone runs it in some capacity. But we think this is a pretty interesting angle. And it's somewhat compelling given the fact that SMS is volume based. So some of the numbers can get very, very, very big. It's not like a Netflix subscription. It's literally, depending on sending, all the messages go through AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, you name it. And the margins are much smaller. So with that being said, if we can accelerate the commission, get like a big lump sum, that's pretty nice for certain agencies who want that. But ultimately, we lead with service. So just making sure the clients are the happiest. As Daniel said, that is by far and large our most important priority. Making sure everything is good. Click-through rates are good. We're sending a healthy amount. The client's happy. We're answering in a very quick period of time. If they have any questions or concerns. But that is ultimately the highest level of prioritization at the partner program, is the service and the attention from our team.
And I've seen your program grow a lot in the past just year, I think, Nic. I mean, from our first conversations till today, I think, you're finally at that mature stage in the program where I think everything's starting to fire and you've got a system really created. So it's really good to see. So that, just to recap, that incentive structure, that's really unique. I don't know anyone else that does it, but I'm sure there are other companies that do it, but it is unique, at least in my experience. You will take a referral from an agency like Daniel, and maybe there's qualifications in here. You can, mention anything like that. But if Daniel has a pretty decent sized referral that he wants to bring in, you'll front load the commissions on that instead of dripping it out over 12 months. Is that the way it works? So hypothetical numbers, the referral's worth $5,000 for Recart. You'll front load whatever the percentage is. Instead of having to be a $50 check every month, it'll be a $500 check in month one, just to keep the numbers round. Is that kind of how it works?
Exactly. It depends on the contract duration that the client signs. So, we have as low as 3 months up to, I guess, we don't have anything bigger than a year, but I'm sure if someone wanted to sign a 2-year, we wouldn't say no. We'd figure that out, right? I'm pretty sure anyone would try to figure that out. But so whatever the duration is, we'll just accelerate it. Exactly. You still get commission after that, overages each month. It's all still there. It's just kind of front loading it a bit. It's just a way to spice it up.
I love it. And Daniel, let's talk about how that is perceived by you guys. I mean, accounting is the only sort of negative that I would see, but would you rather have $50 a month for 10 months, or would you rather have a $500 check that month that you brought the referral in?
Yeah, I think it's not even a question, right? So we have other partners as well. And I think all of them, they have this monthly model or quarterly model where they pay us after the fact. Let's say Recart pays us upfront, and that's amazing. I think they are the only partner who does it. And it's quite relevant for a company, I would say. It really helps us. So that's great.
The only thing I can think about that is, when you're dealing with a partnerships team and they're getting that one lump sum, it makes the next month a little bit more kind of a question mark, right? So an example of that, Daniel, is that we work with some agencies that have, large partnership teams, or at least a few people on the partnership team. And they have monthly quotas that they got to hit with their partner sourced XYZ, just like a tech partner team does. And when they get those lump sums, it changes their accounting, essentially their projections. That's all. But other than that, especially if you're dealing with a CEO, that seems to be a better use of the total commission payouts, is to do it all at once. So let's talk about that, Nic, and then I'll get your opinion on this, Daniel. Is incentivizing a CEO versus a partnerships team. And the example, Nic, I think is, for us is the Hawk Media scenario, where Hawk Media would rather Nic spiff out their sales team than put Hawk Media in this commission payout pool that just goes to the company. It goes to the balance sheet of the company. They'd rather $200 go to the salesperson, for example. But what have you seen, and what has your experience been with the difference between incentivizing a CEO like Daniel versus a partnerships manager at an agency?
Great question. It's pretty interesting because certain people, like a partnerships leader doesn't own the company necessarily. And if they find out there's an incentive for them, they're kind of like becoming a pseudo salesperson for Recart, if you will. And that might interfere with what their actual role is at the company. And maybe, the CEO doesn't want them focusing on that and things like that. So I think the first thing to do is just to clarify with the CEO or the partner manager, how do you like to get compensated? Obviously, you could say are there ways outside that you like to get compensated also? And you can kind of, try to figure out the whole puzzle and what really motivates people. But ultimately, if you want to work with this company for a very long time and you want to make sure the checks and balances are all there, then ask the head of the snake, at the top, what is the best way to compensate you guys? Do you want me to give 50% of it to whoever wrote the deal, 100% to the business? We do different ways all the time. So it's first point is clarification. I do find, in terms of lasting relationships and just more congruency across everything, the company itself and the company can decide what they want to do with that money is the best way moving forward. I do find, though, incentivizing your partners and your employees working with other businesses is very helpful. And an example is actually at Recart. Recart incentivizes our customer success reps to make your companies more money, for example, and just basically keep an eye on each of the companies working with us, and whether that's working with the partners, updating people, saying, hey, Labor Day is coming up. I guess that's the next nearest holiday. You did such a good job, 3 months ago. Why don't we send a campaign talking to the agency about that? We're incentivized to make our accounts more money. Since we implemented that change, we've noticed drastic increases in improvement across a lot of accounts. Plus, our employees are a lot happier as well. So I think that also works with partnerships to very much a degree.
Daniel, I want to hear your thoughts on that. So yes, I agree. I agree, and I think it's important as a partnerships lead. It's sometimes you can't be just like one size fits all, or you can't be one size fits all, and you kind of have to work one-to-one with partnerships. And I think we're in that day and age where partnerships teams need to stop looking at those scaled programs as the example, your Monday.coms of the world, above that, obviously your HubSpot and sales and Shopify and Salesforce and stuff. You can't look at that and say, let's model our program like they do. You kind of have to be like, I'm going to have a conversation with Daniel. But Daniel, what's your experience? I mean, you're going on how many years as an agency?
4 years.
4 years as an agency. You've been in, and it's e-commerce. And again, for those of you who've missed that, it's a retention marketing agency. Main partners, Recart, obviously, Klaviyo, and a few other e-commerce products. You have been an agency during the most exciting time for e-commerce, I would say, in the past, since e-commerce existed. I think the last 4 years have been the most exciting, but now you're obviously in that calm after the storm where you kind of have to make sure that you've got things operationally sound and you are, you're able to maybe scale. Maybe you want to scale, maybe you want to sell. I don't know. How do you look at partnerships, and what have you experienced as the change in partnerships since 4 years ago? This is what I was hearing and seeing. Today, here are the big changes. So let's talk about anything relevant around the word change in partnerships.
Yeah, that's a very good question. So first of all, I already mentioned the, building on products as an agency. I think that's one very important thing. But beyond that, so I think that more SaaS company and software company CEOs, they should think more strategically, not just how you will make more revenue or get more funding, but more strategic cooperation. And there are many ways to do that. So co-branded marketing, or launching events together, organizing events together, either online or offline things. And we already did many of these with Recart. So I think that's the main thing here. I just talked to 2 SaaS companies today, and after 3 minutes, I just wanted to leave the call. I didn't do that, but it was just too much for me.
Let's talk about that. And then I want to talk about certifications. I want to hear Nic's experience with this as well. So what I want to talk about there is the sale versus the enablement. And I just posted a link in our chat for those of you listening to an article I just published this morning. And excuse the video placeholder. It's got some weird video placeholder, but I'll just share my screen in case anyone's watching this. We're going to have this on YouTube, by the way, if you're just listening as a podcast. We have it on YouTube. But why do agencies see low ROI on SaaS certifications? So this backs into your point, Daniel, of the SaaS companies just selling to me and not providing a partnership opportunity. I can't share it on screen here, but I was just in a LinkedIn conversation with another CEO, and on his website, they have an affiliate landing page, and then they have the product page and the product features. And then everything on the product page is selling directly to agencies. And then the affiliate page has sort of a, hey, we can offer you an affiliate fee. And I was telling the CEO, you have to have an opportunity for the agencies to partner. If you're just selling to the agency, don't use the word partnership. Don't come to Partner Hub. Don't come to our community. Don't engage with us, because you're selling directly to agencies, and that's it. And if you waste the agency's time, you are obviously annoying Daniel and his agency by just getting on a partnership conversation and then starting to provide a sales routine, demoing the product. So what this does, this first talks about how most agencies are seeing low return on certifications. But then part of the reason for that, and what we discovered, is that only 3 out of 10 certification programs train the agency on how to sell a service on top of the platform. meaning 7 out of 10, 70% of the certifications that we found only talk about the product, how to use the product, what to do with the product. They do not tell Daniel and his agency and his team what they can build on top of the product, what services they can offer, and how to actually go to market and sell those services. The ones that do are HubSpot, Shopify, Klaviyo, Attentive, and Okendo, of the ones that we found. The rest don't. And of course, those 5, HubSpot, Shopify, Klaviyo, Attentive, and Okendo, I think the 3 of us at least all know who those companies are. The ones that don't, we still know who those companies are, but you don't see people talking about the certifications on LinkedIn and on their profiles. And I think a big issue with what Daniel was talking about there that led to this is the product teams and the marketing teams are guiding the partnership program, which means that Nic and his whole entire partner presentation, if he's just starting, is seeded by the product and marketing teams, and all they know is how to market the product. That's all they know. So then Nic is kind of starting his program with, hey, we've got a great product and you should join the product and the product. And Daniel's like, yeah, I know you have a great product, but what is the opportunity on top of your product? What can I build? What is the service? And how can I get all of my team to understand that as well? The answer is a certification, but under that is you have to have a certification that trains agencies on how to sell services on top of the product. The big issue that Daniel just mentioned is tech teams that just present a sale to him in a partnerships conversation. So Nic, I want to hear your experience with that. And how has your experience changed from maybe when you initially started to talk to agencies and maybe all you knew is Recart has a good product and I've got to go in and enable these agencies, to now what is the new sort of mentality that you have when you go into calls to make sure that you're not doing what Daniel just said is an annoying thing where he gets on a partnership call and they just start selling product to him?
Absolutely love this question. I came from a director of sales background at a Shopify Plus brand before Recart. So still in the Shopify world, just on the brand side. The last thing I would need, I guess, my experience, maybe I'll Daniel, I need some agency experience. That's like probably the last thing I need to check off. Coming from a sales experience background, I got this title, head of partnerships. I was coming at it like sales still. I mean, I didn't really see what the difference was. I was like, okay, should I just talk a little bit more with the person, I guess, and then I understand sales is you interact with me for 30 days or so until you can pass them off to, I guess, the subsequent person. And then now partnerships is, okay, you interact with me 30 days. No, we're still interacting. You're interacting the next month, the month after, years after, like we are all here. I met both you guys back in 2020. This is awesome. And kind of hitting that distinction between sales and partnerships it took a while. And it shows how new the whole partnerships, quote unquote, industry and trajectory is. But I was very much product focused. This is our product, exactly as you said, Alex. Then I started realizing this is very one-dimensional. I don't really have a compelling reason to keep coming back and talking to these people I'm speaking to. And sure, I'm getting some oohs and ahs, but again, that's sales. It's not a relationship. So then I started realizing, okay, I need to switch this into an angle of trust, of reinforcement, and of a way that we can both mutually benefit each other. Almost like a CEO hat. Let's paint the vision and let's look 1,000 feet, 1,000 meters out, if you will. And try to figure that out. That's not that long, it's like say 1,000 kilometers. How about that? 1,000 meters, pretty short ahead. So yeah, I think just adopting that mindset, looking at it as a relationship you have with your friends or family, for example, but exude a lot of those qualities you keep on the relationship management side, and put them on your business partners. It'll go a really long way. And to piggyback off of what you were talking about with the SaaS certifications, Alex, it's very interesting because we're almost done with a couple of our certifications and videos. And when I was, going through them, I was like, a lot of these are me just kind of saying, again, product. So then I did a spin-off, and it's in our partner portal where it's like how to sell SMS, key, some of the quick hitters. And I'm kind of going on that angle, and I need to spin off even more of that. But there is a big distinction that I realized, and I was like, I thought they were together, kind of like, again, sales and partnerships, right? But really, they are totally far apart. I mean, and it's very important to have these distinctions if you want to succeed in this industry.
I love it. And I want to get your thoughts on that. So a couple of things that Nic mentioned, when partner managers start, Daniel, they are almost trained and brought in as sales/marketing, right? Here's the product that you have, go and sell it to agencies. So instead of selling direct to customers, you're just selling to the agencies. And that's kind of where it all stops, unless they have a really awesome, savvy CEO or head of channel above them. But I'd say 9 out of 10 of the partner managers that I talk to when they're even in their later stage in their career are still just pitching product. And we come in and, like Nic mentioned, that we just hammer the idea of you're building a different thing. You are not selling Recart. You're not selling even a partnership. You are selling a bigger picture idea of what Daniel and his agency can do on top of Recart. And then you have to present that. You have to get Daniel bought into the idea of going down this track. We call it a partner track. And at the end of the track is tons of service revenue. And if you don't do that, what happens, and most of the calls that I have with these frustrated partner managers are, I talked to Daniel, he said he was excited, and then he didn't return my emails. And I said, okay, well, what did you sell Daniel on? And they say, oh, he loved the product. He loved this feature. He said he had one client over here that could use that feature. And then he went dark and ghosted me for 2 months. And I'm like, well, yeah, he's, the next 10 calls he has are with clients, and all of those clients have needs, and he has to deal with that every day. And all you sold him on was one client maybe needing one of your features. If you had sold him on a partner track that ended in service revenue, then the next call you have is with his head of marketing to get the head of marketing involved in the go-to-market strategy. And then Daniel booked you with his head of sales to make sure that you're mapping accounts and you've got a co-selling arrangement with his agency. And then you get back on with Daniel to discuss the whole process of getting his team trained up. And maybe that's a lunch and learn. And Daniel's involved in that. And you have 3 calls booked with Daniel and his team. And now you've kind of infiltrated and you are associated with his agency and you've got a plan in place. And Daniel's an operational guy and he wants to execute on that plan because it's a plan and he knows he's got to execute or else the ROI is going to be 0. So that's a totally different game plan than just saying, oh, that one agency had one client that was interested in one feature. And then you're trying to email them saying, what about that client? What about that client? So I want to hear your thoughts on that, Daniel. What can the partner managers do to enable you on that first call, to have a second call, and to create something together? What can partnership teams do better?
I really like how you describe this process because that's exactly how this happens. We have calls and in many cases, I say that, okay, there is one client, maybe a few clients who may be interested, but let me come back to you. And then I don't come back because I have enough things to do. So that's the ugly truth. But yeah, let's help partnership managers. So, when there is a tool and let's say Recart or something else, for example, now we are testing a new pop-up tool. We used one pop-up software for almost 4 years, and now we are shifting to another one. And maybe I can use it as an example. Why? So they have a very good support team, and we have a very good relationship. And what I mean by this, so we have a shared Slack channel, we can have calls with them anytime. And the other company, they are just not as helpful. I mean, they are slow to reply. We cannot have a shared Slack channel. That actually really matters, especially at the beginning when we don't understand the product. We will have questions. That's one thing. The other thing is if I or we as a team, we like the software, then the next question will be, and not from me, but from my team. Okay, but how will we use it? How do we have a process around it, or we have to create it? And if the company can give it to us, and Klaviyo, for example, they did a stellar job on this, or Shopify, or I think you showed Okando as well. So all of these companies are great to educate their partners, not just how to use the product, but how to sell it. And actually, that's very rare. Like 5% of software companies does it. They actually tell you how you can try to package your services. That's great advice for a partner. So if they provide these processes, it helps my team a lot, because then from day one we can we know how to sell it, how to work with it, how to get the first results for the client. The client will be happy, and then we can scale the relationship. So I really like this thing that you mentioned about these companies, how they help their partners with guides and how to do sales, how to package the services.
And I'm showing on screen one of our examples here in our community. We have training for agencies, and this is a course on how to set up and sell a service on top of just one product. And in this course, we go as far as packaging up the exact pricing that Daniel would sell the service for. We give him landing page copy, and we give him email introduction copy, sales rebuttals, FAQs, so that if Daniel wanted, he could just copy paste all the information off of this document here and put up a landing page. And then there's an email introduction copy. He could edit that and blast out to all of his customers. Hey, do you want this service? Yes or no? And maybe a couple customers come back and buy the service right then and there. Daniel's happy. Whoever the product underneath this crash course, they're of course happy, and they're off and running. They've got a mutual client and a use case being developed, and they're going. And Daniel didn't have to do a lot of thinking. He just tasked one of his team members to doing it and sent out the email. And then maybe no one replies, and then Daniel didn't waste a lot of time, and it's just still a landing page on a site in case someone finds it. But that is what very few teams are doing. And Nic, I'd love to hear why you think very few teams are doing it this way. Why are they struggling with enabling agencies to sell services? What is the reason? I'm struggling to figure out what the reason is.
I know. I think the lack of depth of context there is surrounding all these, like, partnership. For example, I mean, this is like one of the first partner communities to have ever existed. I know there's like a slight hyper specialization in e-commerce, which makes it even further, unique. But let's be honest. I mean, it's kind of like a barren desert out there for partners and for partnerships. And I think a lot of it blurs with, as you said already previously, marketing and sales. There is just no distinction between these things. And it's funny. I have some friends that are in quote unquote partnerships at some more corporate jobs. Nothing to do with e-commerce, and it's basically sales. I mean, it's not partnerships at all. So it's almost like the partnerships name at a corporate level is like getting somewhat tarnished. And I think a lot of people are attracted to it because it's a little fancier, right? Sales has been, it's been around forever. It's like, okay, this is like just a newer title, right? But it's not about the title. It's about the role. And I think a lot of people just don't understand that. And to be honest, Alex, it took me a long time to figure that out. So when people are in these industries changing jobs so frequently, it's hard to ever really catch up to that reality, unless you've been in the industry for long enough. So yeah, I think that's another factor. People jumping in and around. You said half-life is something like a year and a half. Even last year.
It's getting worse. The half-life is getting shorter because of obviously all the economic turmoil that's going on right now. So partnership teams listening, the advice from Daniel, first and foremost, is to make sure you're not wasting his time. Make sure you have a true partnership conversation to be had, and then make sure you are fully enabling him to build services on top of your product and not just showing him a product that he can purchase for one of his clients.
Yeah, that's a great piece of advice. And just a random thought while Nic was talking. So how can a company expect the partnership manager to build solid partnerships for long years if the partnership manager leaves every 6 months? So I think that's a good thing to think about for company owners.
So frustrating. Yeah. And then they, I see it happening all the time. That's a whole separate podcast, but
that's good.
The churn of partner managers is hurting everybody because Daniel then has a different contact every 6 months at every one of his partners. You probably have a half dozen at least tech partners right now. And that's not including your agency partnerships. You got to deal with all this stuff, and it's very much a difficult scenario if everybody's intact and staying put. But when people leave, it just makes it much harder. So the long and short of this episode is, how to enable and find your first flagship partner and work with them to develop a solid program. I think that's the main theme from what I got. But underneath all that, I mean, we have certification stuff, we have spiffing partner strategy, we have working closer with the agencies to build services, making sure you're truly partnering and not selling. There's a whole bunch of bullet points, and I have a whole page of notes now. So thank you guys so much for getting on. I know you both have calls to get on after this. Daniel, you may be done for the day, so get some rest, man. I hope you have a good next day and a good trip to Poland. And we'll see you both in Slap either way.
Thank you so much, Alex.
Take care,
guys. Appreciate it. Thank you, Daniel. Good to see you.